BOA San Antonio starts tomorrow morning, and in this video, we're going to predict Captions awards, picking who the 14 finalist bands will be, and ultimately deciding who will be the winner of this year's BOA San Antonio. But first, we're going to take a look at the schedule, starting with the first block. This block is mainly just looking at 1A, maybe 2A, Veterans Memorial, Charland, Odom. These bands are competing. Hargrave as well, competing for 1A. John B. Alexander, they could be, a top 25 band. Jordanson's another one that we're looking at for this this 1A award. Lake Travis, underrated as hell. Always Lake Travis. I haven't seen anyone talk about Lake Travis, and they're always good. They're always a finalist. Probably not for this comp, but they're consistent, and they're probably going to be a top 20 band again, as they usually are. Robert E. Hendrickson, there's a world where they podium in 3A. I just don't see it. They're really good, but I don't know. This year it's super stacked, and I just think the top three are just a little bit better. Speaking of the top three, Cedar Park, congrats on your 5A state championship again. But yeah, Cedar Park here, probably a finalist lock. Leander, this is one that is bubble finalist, and it's a bad start time for them. Going before the other bubble finalists, Westlake and James Bowie followed them up. But yeah, bad start time for Leander, unfortunate, but I guess the game's the game. Westlake, like I mentioned, Mo and Gene Johnson is another one. It's probably looking at the top 25, but probably won't go further than 15. I'd be surprised if they went further than 15 for sure. James Bowie, definitely a finalist bubble band, but I guess we'll see what happens. Round Rock, also bubble. Saw them last year live in person at Grand Nats, and they were great. Awesome watch, great show, and overall pretty cool. Cedar Ridge, they're looking to get back after a down year last year. I'm not really sure what happened, to be honest. Ronald Reagan, probably a finalist if we're being real. Love their show this year. Just incredible, to be honest. But let's see if we can get the execution out of them. Flower Mound, 1A, 1B with Hebron in Bedford. And, good show, as always. Love the unis. Unis are nice. And yeah, the show is executed really well at Bedford, and hopefully they can grow on it. Keller, another finalist, bubble band. Kind of a down year for them, to be honest. I can't lie, I didn't really like their show on first couple watches, but you usually see really heavy progression, and this is where you really see it, this competition. So maybe they'll blow me away. Rouse, it's another finalist. Hopefully, you would hope, right? Really good. Westwood, also another bubble band. I think they're probably closer than a lot of people think. But yeah, Westwood, good show. Great performances as well in the comps, and they're ultra competitive with the bubble bands, and let's just see what happens. CTJ, I don't want to kick anyone when they're down. I don't know if I should leave it at that. They could still make finals, for sure. They could still make finals. I just don't know the likelihood of that. Yeah. Vista Ridge, great as always. I do kind of think their show it's a little bit of a downgrade from last year, and especially 2022 and 2021 for that matter. But I mean, it's a good show for sure, and I mean, they're not going to struggle to be awesome musically every single time, every year. But I mean, visually, they have their issues. Keller Central, they're kind of in the Robert E. Hendrickson area. Biloxi is 2A. They're competing up there. Then the Woodlands and Marcus. Honestly, I don't really know what to expect from the Woodlands. I mean, I was kind of underwhelmed when I saw their show, to be honest. But also, I was underwhelmed last year. And then it was amazing at San Antonio and Grand Nats. So, what do I know, right? I mean, it was one of my favorite shows at Grand Nats when I went. And so, I mean, maybe it just evolves ridiculously. But right now, I mean, when I saw BOA Houston, it just kind of looked like their visual was amazing because they're the Woodlands. But their music, it left something to desire. And, I mean, I didn't really particularly like the show. I mean, it kind of reminded me more of On the Town than it did really any other show in recent memory from them. But who knows? I mean, maybe I'm just talking out my ass and they're going to fucking win. I mean, they could as well. Marcus, same deal. Pretty much, you could copy paste the exact same thing I just said with the Woodlands to Marcus, and it checks out. Except their music instead of visual, but their visual is also really good. So, College Park is kind of in that Robert E. Hendrickson range. College Park is underrated. All right, if I do the Wiley East too, but if I do the underrated shows. And Dawson, like, I don't know why I'm skipping over these bands. Dawson, stub. But, yeah. If I do the underrated bands list this year, which I don't think I will, because it kind of, like, got a 9 out of 10 last time, which, if you do YouTube, you know, 9 out of 10s ain't what you're looking for. But, yeah, that's something to note. Hebron, I mean, this year, I mean, I thought their show was cool. Like Nimrod a lot. But what we saw was less, which I'm kind of thankful for, because last year their show almost seemed like it was too hard to execute well. And that kind of got them killed at Nats. I mean, they definitely had the hardest show there for sure, and I mean they just couldn't get the movement. That circle drill, you guys know what I'm talking about. That circle drill, there was not a single time that it was clean ever. But the show was also lit, so I mean, what am I talking about? LD Bell, Bubble, not really sure what happened to them in their first regional of the season, but maybe they'll bounce back. Forney is a nice little underrated band that deserves a shout out. Certainly in the Robert E. Hendrickson range, kind of, I wouldn't say bubble, but the tier below that, and they're there. South Lake Carroll, I'd say, is bubble. Still don't know how they got like 7th at that at Grand Nats that one time. Oh my god. Yeah, that was kind of insane. Sci-Fair, they've kind of dropped off this year. I was kind of expecting them to be bubble, and I just don't think they're at that level. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. I think it's kind of cool when I say this and then people, the bands, prove me wrong. And then they come back and leave a comment. Yo, we proved you wrong. Take that, nerd. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Waxahachie, I think they're bubble. They're definitely getting overlooked. even if their scores are lower than some of the other ones that I'm saying are bubble. Their show's really fun. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm seeing similar people make predictions, and no one's even mentioning Waxahachie in their top 20. I just don't know how that's possible. I mean, when I'm looking at shows, their show is a lot more, I guess, energy inducing than some of the other ones in that range, and we'll get into that when we talk about finalist bands, if I have them in finals for sure. Capel, maybe we'll continue that conversation with Capel. Yeah, they're so technically good that I'm gonna have trouble leaving them off finals. Hey, get there first, but don't skip through the video, please. But they're so technically good that it's like, it's hard for me because I just don't really like the show. You know what I mean? And it almost feels wrong that I don't like the show. But I don't. Because, I mean, I kind of feel guilty. You know, does that make sense? Like, Capel, I don't know. You guys get what I mean. But we'll get more into it. Dripping Springs, another bubble band. They have a pretty cool show. Their visuals are nice. But yeah, I mean, Pioneer, they're probably going to win 2A. Let's just be for real on that one. Pearland, I'll just say this. Pearland outworked Ronald Reagan in that regional. Even if Reagan had the better show very clearly, Pearland had the better performance. I'm just going to say that. I mean, if there was like an award ceremony for best trained band, it would be Pearland this year. I mean, looking at their visual, everything is together. Everything is extended. Everything is well done. Like, there was a moment on the multicam where they were doing a slow forward march. Everything was together. Perfect technique. Perfect. I mean, very, very good. Unis are also the best in any show this year, maybe Broken Arrow, but the unis are on point. The technique is on point. The show's on point. So, props to Pearland. Cy Woods, good show. Deserves a shout out. I wouldn't say they're competing for finals, but it deserves a shout out. Pecos, probably in contention to win 2A, but I don't know if they will. And Vandy is Vandy. All right, and they will be until they're not. Yeah, so there's the schedule. And with that, let's get into Captions Awards. For 1A, I have Odom sweeping. I just think they're reliable. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I'm going to be honest, other than Odom, I don't really know much about 1A. But, yeah. So I have Odom, Luis, and Ganado, with Odom sweeping. 2A, I've got Pioneer sweeping, Pecos second, Hidalgo third. I mean, kind of the same deal with 2A. I mean, Pioneer and Pecos. Pecos was 1A last year, if I remember correctly. And they were, like, shockingly good. I remember I was watching and I was like, damn. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. And then 3A, this is where it starts heating up. You know what I mean? I have Cedar Park sweeping. I know people aren't going to like that because, I mean, Rouse is objectively more fun. And Leander's also in that conversation as well. I mean, I love myself some Leander. And I actually was thinking when I was recording this video that I wanted to bring the plastic sunglasses out here, but I couldn't find any, so I'm just here glassesless. That's awful wording, but we're gonna roll with it. I have Cedar Park sweeping though. I mean, it's tough to really imagine anything else for me. And I know Rouse swept last year, and I know the 5A win doesn't mean anything for BOA, because Rouse destroyed them in BOA and then proceeded to lose state. I just think Cedar Park's better. I mean, better in everything except like the fun factor, but even that, it's kind of close. I don't know. And then for 4A, Vandy's first. I have Hebron second, and then Flomo third. Really, I mean, we're gonna get into it, but I think in 4A, like most of the top finalist bands are interchangeable. Like, but Vandy's first, and then from 2 to like 8, I could see anything happening there. I mean, shows develop. I mean, when you think about even the best show that you can think of, which is, I mean, Pinstriped in this scenario, that didn't win their first regional. Like, think about that. Going into BOA San Antonio, Hebron was like, maybe they'll podium. That was kind of the thought in 2021, and then they destroyed everybody. So yeah, I mean, that's a thing. I have Captions. I have Hebron winning music, the Woodlands winning visual, and Vandy winning GE. I don't think it's going to be split like that, but I have it split. Because really, I don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, music could go to, I mean, Hebron is the obvious choice, and Vandy's the obvious choice for GE. But GE can go to Flomo. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if Hebron really evolves, it could be them. And I think Reagan has the chance to really win not visual, but G for sure. I mean, Reagan could win GE, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. But, I mean, they're going to have to go a long way if they want to win visual, because, I mean, they got worked. I know the scores didn't say they got worked, but they got worked. Go back and watch. I love Fallen as much as the last guy, but I mean, the performance speaks for itself. All right, finalists. I have I think this is kind of performance order, but also kind of not. I have Cedar Park, Ronald Reagan, Flomo, Marcus, the Woodlands, Hebron, Vandy, Rouse, Cedar Ridge, Vista Ridge, Pearland, and then this is where it starts getting difficult for me. On one hand, Capel is so good. Have to include them. But then you have other bands that are so good that you have to include them, like Westwood, like Dripping Springs, like Leander. And so it starts getting hard for me because there are just so many good bands. I mean, this competition is 25 bands deep, where if you take the 25th band in this comp and send them to Grand Nats, they'd make finals. And there's no doubt in my mind that would be true. And we've seen it before. We've seen that happen before with South Lake Carroll and Robert G. Hendrickson. I mean, South Lake Carroll, if I remember correctly, in 2022, they didn't even make state. And they made finals. And they got 7th. I think they got 7th. They might have gotten 8th. But you get my point. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, I mean, I was very, very conflicted when making the finalist bands. The last 3 with Capel, I mean, was really, really, really considering Westlake and Westwood and James Bowie. James Bowie went back and forth. That's probably my 15th. Dripping Springs almost put in. I ended up going with Capel in Waxahachie in, and Leander in. And Capel was was going towards my better judgment because they're just so good you can't leave them out. But, I mean, I don't know. With Waxahachie and Leander especially, I just think, like, when it's that close, you have to go with, like, where you get energy from. I'm watching these shows, I'm feeling the energy off the screen with these shows, especially Leander. Some kids these days would call it aura. These shows have aura. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's where I went with that. Sorry Westwood, sorry Westlake, sorry James Bowie. James Bowie I still want to put in. Oh my gosh. Love James Bowie. Even though you guys beat Wando in prelims in 2022, I'll forgive you. Because we did end up winning finals. Even though I don't know if we should have, but yeah, that's a thing. Anyway, we're gonna go and start with number 14. I have Waxahachie. The show's fun. I really like the show. The prop expansion I think is cool. Yeah, and overall, I mean, there's not really much else to say other than, I mean, it's fun. Like, the show is fun, and it's done really well. And, I mean, their music is awesome. And it has levels to go from where it was at Bedford. If we're disregarding the 14.9, which ended up being 16th for individual visual performance in prelims, they would have, I mean, they would have probably been way up the board. And I know visual is definitely not their strong suit, but I mean, that seems egregious now. And 13th, I have Capel. Capel, I mean, I've talked about him enough. Like, you guys know what I think about their show. I mean, it's fine. I don't know. You may not be able to tell because of the lighting, but it's very early in the morning. Very early. I need to go to bed. But yeah, Capel. Very, very, very technically skilled. Leander. Great show. So fun. I love it. It's bringing me back to the 2019 days. You know, it's bringing me back to before the time where like 80 kids got COVID in the same cycle. And then they had like half the band performing for a regional. You know, we're going before that time, and we're getting back to Leander supremacy. And Leander was good last year as well, but just not really to the level that they were before COVID. And you know, I would definitely know a thing or two about everybody having COVID in the same event. Yeah. Anyway. Sure, whatever. Show's awesome. The trumpet solo at the beginning is awesome. And, I mean, what more do you want? What more do you want from a show than that? Just awesome, to be honest. Number 11, Cedar Ridge. It's kind of the same thing I said with Capel. It's just, I mean, you can clearly tell that the kids and the performers are talented, and the music is good. Just, I want more from the performance, like, to be honest. I mean, and I want more from the show. It's just kind of uninspired. but technically very good. And that's why I have them in 11th. Because it's technically very good, but I can't have them higher because, I don't get hyped for it. I don't get amped. I don't feel the same feels as I do for a Leander. Or a Rouse, which is the next one. I have Rouse in 10th. Good show. And they would be top 5 most years here. The only problem is it's so stacked that it's ridiculous. So, they unfortunately get pushed down because everybody's just so good. So, sorry, it's less about Rouse, but it's more about everybody else being amazing. I have Vista Ridge. No, I don't have Vista Ridge. I have Cedar Park. Cedar Park in 9th. Same deal. The show is awesome. Really liked it. And I still do. But I can't have them higher. I can't have them higher. There's nothing really more I can say. Because I'm not going to put them over Vista Ridge, which is next. I have Vista Ridge. And I know they got like a 95.5 last year in finals, and they got top 5. The problem is, I don't know. The problem is everybody ahead of them is awesome as well, which is the same thing I said for the last two bands. But also Vista Ridge this year, it is sadly the worst show they've had since probably pre-2021. It's better technically than 2021. But it doesn't have the same feel, you know what I mean? We're talking aura. And I can't, I don't feel that. It just feels less iconic, if you would want to say that. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass, but that is kind of what the video is about, so. I have Pearland 7. Once again, like I said, the top is just too good to put them over. And I think if we were 2 weeks ago, I would have them higher. Because even though Reagan beat them by like 3 points in prelims, and Pearland only won by like half a point in finals, or no, not half a point, half a tenth of a point. So like a 20th of a point. I still think Pearland was better technically and deserved that win for sure. But it's how the game goes, and I don't know, it's just tough because when you compare it to Reagan, one show is clearly like the ceiling is so much higher on Reagan, but the performance was so much higher on Pearland. And so I'm kind of, when I'm comparing it to a show like Reagan's, or a show like The Woodlands, or like Marcus, all these bands that are above them, I'm comparing what the ceiling is, rather than what the performance was. You know what I mean? So that's where it gets tough with these predictions, because realistically Pearland could be top 5, and I wouldn't really bat an eye, because I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense, because they're amazing, and they performed really well, and they did what they had to do. They did their job. They performed their show out of their mind. But I just think if Reagan performs their show out of their mind, they will go farther than Pearland performing their show out of their mind. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the comparison there. Marcus, I think the music is good. Marcus is 6, by the way. I think the music is good. I think the visuals are kind of bland. And I think I like kind of the simplicity, but I kind of want more. Like when I say I like the simplicity, it's kind of like me saying I like drinking water. But yeah, when you're looking at a Marcus, it's like a water. You know what I mean? Like, it gets the job done, and I mean, that's a show that's good for you. But I mean, I'd much rather have a milkshake than a water, and I mean, you could tell from the size of me. So I mean, maybe that's a thing as well. I mean, and a lot of people would have Marcus above because I mean, people like different show styles. It just makes sense. But I have Marcus at 6. I have Flomo at 5, and I know I had them winning visual in prelims, but I have them at 5. Woodlands, they're cool. I mean, there's really nothing else to say about it. And shows will emerge as like, wow, that's a banger. You know what I mean? Like, and this show might be one of them. And I mean, the Woodlands are always one of them when I'm looking at San Antonio, and I'm like, damn, that show came so far, and it's the Woodlands all the time. It was in 2022 where they got second, and it was in 2020 in 2023 where they got fourth, I think, but no, they got third. They got third. Did they get third? Yeah, they got third because Hebron didn't go. Yep. Wait, no, did they get second? They got second. So yeah, they got second both times. I am having them drop, but it's just tough to put them somewhere because I'm doing the same thing again. Shows above them are so good. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's where I'm coming from. Flomo is 4. It's good. I mean, and Flomo being 4 just comes down to I like the other shows more. I like Hebron and Reagan and Vandy more. And so they kind of get stiffed being 4, even though, I mean, their show quality is up there. I just like the shows more. And when it's close, I'm probably going to lean the shows that I like more, as you've seen during this prediction video. I have Hebron 3. Oh, wait, should I do captions? I have Hebron winning music, but they're 3. I've seen this play out. Like, we saw this story play out last year. The show is really, really difficult. And, I mean, with Hebron this year, it's hard to put them up. It's really hard. Because we saw last year, like, even with better music than they have last year, and probably better G, they still came third at Nats. And they still lost to the Woodlands in semis. I know they won prelims at Nats. And then they magically dropped to 4th, but that's kind of how it is. When the visuals are, like, sloppy. Does that make sense? Like, even though the shows are lit. And, I mean, like I said, like Nimrod, I like the opener. The opener's cool. I will say the show gives me a lot more like Uncharted Waters vibes than it does anything in recent, like anything post-COVID Hebron vibes. But yeah, I mean, this show gives me Uncharted Waters vibes. Like, that's what this show is. Pretty much. I have Reagan 2. Reagan 2, I mean, it's risky. That's a gamble. That's about as big of a gamble as you can get, because if they perform like they did, if they have the same, especially visual, I know they still got first individual visual. That score was wrong. Watch the show. All right, the brass block in the ballad that did the slow forward march, like, there's people out of step. you're Reagan, dude. Like, design wise, I love this show. The show is probably my favorite of the year design wise. It just needs to be executed. And that's why I'm taking the gamble. I'm taking the gamble because Reagan showed me in 2022 and 23 that they take the step up going into San Antonio. In 20 what? In 22, they lost to CTJ and Cedar Ridge, and then they jumped both of them in San Antonio and podiumed, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. And then in 2023, they did a similar thing. I don't think they really faced a lot of adversity, but they still had a massive jump. Like, I was saying the exact same thing going into last year. And then they took a massive jump, so that's what happened. I mean, yeah. So I mean, I'm betting on the massive jump for Reagan. I think it'll come. And if it doesn't, then I mean, I was betting on design. So I mean, you heard it here. Please execute your show, Reagan, because I want to see that performed so well. Because the show's so good. It's so good. It's so well designed. And the music is already cool. Like, I mean, obviously they did the series, like Wando. Did the sax quartet is so good. I think the ballad up until the sax quartet, it needs some more spice. It needs a little bit of garlic powder on top. But you know, the sax quartet is awesome. I know chamber groups with those guys probably go crazy. Is it anybody else? Because with my band, Wando, before I graduated, it was always the sax quartet that had the best performance every time. No matter what band I was in, it was the sax quartet dominating everyone when we did chamber groups. So yeah, that was a thing. Anyway, why was I going on this tangent? I don't even know. It's early. I need sleep. That those two sentences shouldn't go together, but they do. I'm picking Vandy at 1. I just have to. I'm picking Vandy until they prove me wrong. Because, I mean, their show is awesome. Is it worse than last year? Yeah, I mean, that's fine, I guess. But I don't think it needs to be better than last year, because last year was a record setter. Of course, it's not going to be better than last year. And please go to Nats Vandy, because you guys are awesome. I have them winning visual and general effect, by the way, Vandy. It's just so clean. Like, the first performance of the year at Round Rock, it was so good. It was so good at Round Rock already. Hopefully everything's good. You can see that. These are my finalists. This is pretty much my cheat sheet for the entire video. And this is my finals results. Right here. Unchanged. Bold, I know. Bold to have Ronald Reagan at second over Hebron and Flomo. Which, I mean, more proven for sure. But that's what I have. Waxahachie is kind of a bold one as well. Haven't really seen anybody predicting them to make finals. So, I mean, that's something as well. Really tough for me to leave off James Bowie, especially. But, I mean, had to do it. And that's going to be it for me. Hopefully I get these picks right. If I don't, I don't. Be nice in the comment section, please. And yeah, that's all I got to say. See ya.